Hi there everyone, it is currently the 12th of September 2011 and out here in the Western Pacific today we have several areas in the tropics that we continue to closely monitor. First starting off with Tropical Storm 18W here located just towards the southwest of Iwilto. This area is spinning up here and slowly strengthening. It does have a lot of shear along the western periphery, thus most of the convection is located towards the eastern side of the system right here. Actually, if you look closely, the center of circulation is kind of in this region. And also farther out towards the west is another area in the tropics here in the South China Sea. This area is not expected to develop yet. It is continuing to produce an excessive amount of precipitation and rainfall across much of Vietnam here. We are seeing some reports of flooding throughout this region. We'll dive a little bit more into that in a little bit. But as of for right now, we're going to start to talk about here Tropical Storm 18W, possibly cool off if JMA upgrades it to a tropical storm. Yet as of right now, it is a tropical depression per JMA. Therefore, it has not been named yet, but cool up would be the next name in the line here. Do want to note though, this is a infrared combined with visible imagery, yet the visible imagery is starting to fade out here due to the weaning hours of daylight here. But it just do want to note, it is showing some of these low level clouds here and basically around the center of circulation, which is located right in here. If we pull up the IR water vapor differential, you kind of do see this difference right in here, and basically most of the convection located here along the western periphery. Do want to note off towards the north though, see some suppression out here caused by an area of high pressure off towards the north. We'll talk a little more about that in a second, but this is suppressing a lot of the convection up here, and also farther off towards the west, and basically there is this area of convection as well, which is shearing a lot of area off here as well. Actually, if you pull up the shear analysis here you can get a feel for that shear, and just noting about 30 knots of wind shear located over this area of convection off towards the west, and also just basically over top of this system you are seeing about 5 to 10 knots of wind shear, and that is allowing it to develop, especially along the southeastern periphery here. But for the most part, especially on the northern periphery, a lot of wind shear knocking down those cloud tops, and right now this is having a very hard time getting its act together and creating some stability within the system, or instability within the system, and overall organization. And that is also indicated on a lot of these infrared imageries. As you can see, really not a clear depiction of any organization through here. The one thing it does have calling for it right now is that there is a lot of upward vertical motion in throughout this area, actually indicated on the vorticity right in here, about 50 right in the center location. So that's just showing a lot of upward vertical motion, therefore a lot of convection could pop out ahead of this. But also noting the sea surface temperatures in and around this system are very high, out upwards of 28 to 30 degrees. But that is really the main reason why this storm is slowly intensifying. But where is it going to go? I think that's the main question a lot of people want to know. So where is it going to go, and how strong could it possibly get? Well, yesterday I was talking about some of the models, and basically the European one is the one I really think is the model of choice currently. This has been fairly accurate recently, and it is initializing rather well with the system, taking it off towards the northwest, and then as an area of high pressure off towards the north over China kind of wedges in on it, it does steer it towards the southwest. It does, or is expected to make a landfall over Okinawa according to this European model. My thoughts on this though is slightly different. I do think it is going to steer just south of Okinawa. That is my personal thoughts on it though, and not a official forecast. But I'll explain why I do have the slight difference in thinking here. If you do look at the system, it's located right here, and you follow that overall background flow, it is taking it off towards the west, and as indicated here, should take it south of Okinawa and much of the major Ryuku Islands. Yet after it does pass here, I do expect this area of high pressure ridge to move off towards the east as a trough starts to move in from the northwest. So all those factors combined, I do think it'll go south and then eventually start to recurve up towards the China coast here. And depicting that here on this map I created, just showing the tropical storm currently, a lot of the convection off towards the eastern periphery of it, and then as it tracks off towards the west, it will start to make its way slowly towards the north as that high starts to move off towards the northeast. And that it could bring a potential of some tropical storm force winds to much of Okinawa here on the 17th. One thing I have not mentioned yet, and I definitely should mention, is the fact that even if the system does not get too strong, and right now it's only forecast to make a max about 50 to 60 knots, that the wind field associated with it is pretty vast, and it's actually initiating just like that as well. So the wind field could stretch tropical storm force winds up here north of Okinawa to some of the Ryukyu Islands farther up towards the northeast. So I just do want to mention that as well. And if it does take this track, I am thinking it possibly could take, basically Taipei could also see some tropical storm force winds as well if it tracks basically off towards the west and eventually northwest, making landfall around the 20th along the China coast. But these are my thoughts on it. Really, just my personal forecast, but I do want everybody to steer towards the official, starting with JTWC here. It's just showing tropical depression 18W with winds of 30 gusting to 40 knots. They do not have the tropical storm strength just yet, but it is expected to move up towards that intensity here in the next 24 hours, upwards of 35 knots at that time. And they are expecting it to go close to Okinawa and basically right around this region on the 16th into the 17th. And then showing JMA's forecast with this as well, just showing it still at a tropical depression as well. So both of these systems, actually, I think I did mention earlier that it was a tropical storm. I take that back. Actually, it is a tropical depression still. It is expected to increase tropical storm strength if it does get its act together and becomes more organized, but JMA is still keeping it fairly weak at this. Now, near the beginning of the update, I actually mentioned about this little area of convection down here along Vietnam and into Hainan. Well, this area is producing some flood potentials, and that's what's actually being indicated here in red is the high flood potential indicated by a satellite imagery over here, and also just some reports of on the ground there, just showing some high rivers up and down Vietnam, specifically around Da Nang. Actually, some reports of some flooding throughout there. So just want to note that as well. This area of convection has been spinning out there for the past several days, actually upwards of a week, and that can clearly be seen on this 3-day time lapse, just showing this area of convection continuing to spin out here in the South China Sea and along the Vietnamese coast. So just want to continue to monitor that as well. But basically, that is all for right now, everyone. Thanks again for listening to WesternPacificWeather.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, as always, please post them here in the comment section below. So thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.